Welcome to Peak Personalities. This is a series we'll be doing bi-weekly with me and Nathan. The concept will be going by one series at a time, talking about some of our favorite moments, and for now, we're covering Bleach. So, for today, I'm covering my first captain.
Ooh. Really?
Yeah, after covering everyone who's not a captain that I love, like White, Ukiora, and Orihime.
Wow, yeah. Wow, yeah. I'm just now, yeah. I feel like I've covered more captains than you. Yeah, I have, because you haven't.
So what's your guess?
You like characters that are like deep a little bit. They have some theme to them. So I'm gonna say Shunsui.
I do like Shunsui, but that's not who I planned for today. So for today,
Dang.
my three-letter motif is the red herring.
Ooh.
As he would say, he devours ones he loves whole. Gin.
Oh my gosh, it's Gain. I'm like, who are the redheads in the in the captains?
Well, it's more of the literary device than the color red.
It's the literary device. Yeah, that's where I was like, okay, there we go.
Pivotal moments. We're going to tie us right into the title. With his first introduction, he has such an uncanny smile that you just always think he's up to no good. And he does cut off Jidambo's arm at the start of the Soul Society, where he stops Ichigo from getting in. He tells him gatekeepers are supposed to keep the gates closed. So we kind of have our eyes on him because we're like, maybe captains were supposed to be kind of heroic, but Gin's anything but that with his first introduction. And then he has that scripted scuffle with Aizen arguing about stuff in the quarters meeting that Toshiro picks up on. So he's a red herring because everything points to, oh, this is obviously going to be someone we're supposed to suspect, but like didn't actually do it. And it turns out, yeah, he didn't kill him, but he is playing for the bad guys. And then it turns out he isn't even playing for the bad guys. He's an anti-hero at best. So really highlighting his Soul Society scenes where he's fucking with Toshiro. He's trying to get Hinamori caught in the middle of figuring out who Aizen's killer is and getting her in the middle of a bunch of turmoil and just looking like the most obvious not killer in the first arc.
Why is Gain so good at being that double agent kind of anti-hero compared to like Uryu in the Thousand Year Blood War arc? Well, maybe you think Uryu is a good like double agent. I personally didn't think he was.
Even with the Thousand Year Blood War, I just, it's not believable. For Uryu to be believable, he needs to dabble in the darkness, right? And we haven't seen Uryu dabble in the darkness since he had that rivalry with Ichigo at the start of the Soul Society arc. But Gin goes out of his way to do things that feel completely unnecessary for like his own enjoyment. For example, I don't necessarily think it might have been Gin's idea to get Toshiro and Hinamori trying to figure out what's happening to divert more staff away from the actual plan. And another thing Gin does, first of all, he didn't need to cut Jidambo's arm off to stop him from opening the gate. He's a captain. He could have used restrictive keto. And thirdly, when he goes to visit Rukia, he's like, hey, Rukia, I'm here. It's pretty shitty that you're imprisoned, and I could kill all these guards and get you out of here. She went from hopelessness to hopeful, thinking, right, he could do that, and he might do that. It's like, yeah, just kidding. And then she lets out the most death-curdling scream ever. It is like peak voice acting. And he's just smiling. He's like, ha, tricked you. And then he walks away.
I hated Geen for the longest.
And it's like, okay, he's a good double agent because he literally does out of pocket rude things for no other reason than his own personal enjoyment. So it's very easy to believe him to be a villain. But then there's also that subtext writing in there, like when he is departing from Soul Society and Rangiku has him captive. And when he goes, he's like, I would have liked to be your prisoner longer. And you're like, why would he ever say that? And it's compared to everything else that he does in the Soul Society arc, it almost seems like it's not him. It just really stands out as something that's in a different direction than you've seen before.
I hated Geen, and that's why he's such a good character. You're supposed to hate him, and that like I'm kind of glad you picked him because I did not like this dude. First of all, the smile is creepy. That was one thing that got me with Geen, but also his interactions with like especially like what you mentioned with Rukia. I was like, dude, I hate this dude. And even when I think he had like a small scuffle with Ichigo, I just like looked at him. I was like, dude, I don't know who's gonna beat this dude because like Kubo really set up it was gonna be Aizen, Gin, Tozen as like okay these are gonna be our top those are gonna be our 1-2 guys that we're gonna have to fight them. And then Ichigo's gonna fight Aizen. At least that was the early on impression until you got later on. And then we seen that Gin had some other plans. Side note, we did see Mayuri literally kill his own like subordinates prior to after Gin slashed that arm off the gatekeeper. So
Yes, yes. So
it wasn't completely out of pocket for it.
it wasn't completely out of pocket, but it was a strong first introduction because I think Gin is the first captain ever spotted in this story, from your information, because we didn't know that Yoruichi and Urahara and Ishin were captains at that point.
Did we not get introduced to?
Oh, there was Byakuya. So I think Gin was the second captain that was seen.
I agree, yeah.
And Byakuya comes off more noble and like he's doing a just cause because he has orders. Gin didn't have orders. He was roaming around. He was missing his meeting for this, and then he injures her personnel because he wanted to.
He's like doing it for just funsies. That was the early impression I got with Gin.
Going on to strong character moment would be when Rangiku finally intercepts Aizen and Gin in Fake Karakura Town. He takes Rangiku away and seemingly kills her on spot. And then Aizen is like, I thought you have shown her mercy. He's like, I'm a snake. I have no heart, and I swallow those who I care about whole. This is one of the many moments, but this is the final moment that connects all the different pieces of his character together. Like his sword, because it extends and retracts, it's kind of like how a snake will reach out to do its biting motions. And his smile, and when he was a kid and he was helping Aizen with his machinations, he would like lurk in the grass and then strike them. The other thing that really ties it all together is snakes are kind of deceptive. They're known for their trickery, and that's what Gin's character flourishes in for the entire span of the manga and anime, is diverting expectations with hidden agendas.
Yeah, I would say Kubo really slammed the snake motif with him, with every aspect of his character, which I thought that helps him make him so unique.
There's almost no other character that embodies a theme that holistically. There's other characters that try to come close. Like, you could say Yumachika has some sort of peacock motif with how he does his hair and his color gimmick with his sword and his stylization. He kind of tries to do those more out there and avant-garde colors. But Yumachika there's not enough known about peacocks to say, like, Yumachika has a peacock personality.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know what a peacock personality would be, to be honest with you.
Exactly. And also, like, Komamura is a literal dog, but his Shikai, Bankai, his personality, he doesn't feel like a dog or a wolf. He just kind of feels like a good boy. Biggest surprises. And obviously, the biggest surprise was when Gin was telling Aizen he's gonna go kill those teenage humans for him, and then hidden by his Shihakusho, he slams his Bankai into Aizen's chest.
That was such a sick scene.
It was like, oh, you're like, I know he's up to no good, but this is not the no good I was expecting.
Like back then, that was such a good whoa moment. Maybe some people could say like, oh yeah, I always knew, but like for me, I did not see that coming. I don't know, Gin. That scene always got me like thinking, like why did Gin like decide that in that moment this is it, this is when I'm gonna do it.
So the thing I've always thought is that Aizen has been such a isolated individual, and he tells his espada, you can follow me, but I never told them to trust me. And he probably carries the same thought to all of his subordinates, and he probably never let down his guard until that point in the story, because he already was getting cocky and flexing his Hogyoku by fighting Yoriichi, Ishin, and Urahara. So at that point where he knows Gen may or may not betray him at some point because he doesn't trust anyone, he probably was at ease. And Gen used that as an opportunity to touch his blade to negate the effects of Kyoka Sugetsu to try that attack. And honestly, I thought Aizen was actually dead. Because even though, like, Ishin had that impressive attack where he, like, split Aizen's head in half and you saw, like, a galaxy in that shit, Gin took out, let's say, like, a quarter of his body, grabbed the Hogyoku, and started walking away. It's like, oh, I guess it's just his now. And then he, like, Aizen comes back to the Hogyoku, teleports, which I didn't even know was possible in Bleach, and then just, I think he rips his arm off.
Yeah, he literally rips it off.
And you're like, oh, well, that was a crazy moment. And then once that happens, you start thinking, like, could I have seen this coming? Why would Gin even do this? And that's where Aizen kind of leaves Gin to die. And then Dangai Ichigo appears, takes Aizen away. And we get the moment with Rangiku and Gin where Rangiku's saying, like, earlier in his season series, she was saying how the things I don't like about you is I never know what you're thinking. And you always leave without telling me what's troubling you. And then I think in those last moments with Gin is where she says, I always liked how you cared for me, despite everything. Gin's last words were he failed Rangiku, his task to take back what was hers. And I think this gets touched in the Can't Fear Your Own World novels, but when Aizen was trying to build up the Hogyoku, he was basically having a bunch of Soul Reapers killed, and Rangiku was weakened because she had the Soul King's nail, and it was taken from her. And when Gin first comes around Rangiku, she's like weak on the ground, and he gives her like food to help strengthen her.
Oh, they were so cute.
Yeah, and Gin's only sweet to Rangiku. He shows no kindness to anyone else unless it's for his benefit.
Yeah, his character interactions were very like
Polarizing.
literally a polarizing. Which I don't know if that was if he knew like Aizen was gonna select a few people for his little gang, and I don't know if he was doing that in part of his whole bit like double agent thing he was doing. I'm gonna say he does. I'm gonna say that's my headcanon.
I would say what's funny is I think the only person who's been planning nearly as long as Aizen is Gin. Because everyone else who's planning, it's like after Aizen has wronged them, but Gin was planning while Aizen was still working on the first foundations of his holification experiments in the Hogyoku.
And you wonder why Gin didn't tell anyone. Do you think that has to play into his like that polarizing relationship he had with everyone, or did he truly believe he was like, yeah, none of these guys can beat Aizen?
But the way I would think about it is that maybe his plan was to work alongside him and learn as much information as he can to then take him down with other people. But through the isolation of trying to work with people that he actually isn't connected to, he eventually learns the information about Kyoka Sugetsu and how it would be basically impossible for him to get anyone else involved in this plan. He actually, in this instance, is like smarter than Urahara, or at least Urahara didn't know about the ability.
Yeah.
Where Urahara tries to go to Central 46 is like, this guy is Treason McGee and you need to get rid of him. They're like, well, all these people said he isn't, so you're banished. But Gin never falls for that trap because he doesn't try to reach out to other people.
No.
And one of the things that's unfortunate about Gin's story is you don't know how much he could have accomplished if he didn't pretend to play the double agent.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think Bleach still goes out how it does without Gin, because I mean, to be honest, Gin's plan worked. It just didn't work for good, and I don't know. I feel more bad for Rangiku.
Yeah, Rangiku didn't get the opportunity to put her 2 cents in Gin. He decided something for her that she might have never wanted and then lost someone she cared deeply about.
And she didn't really, I mean, I guess the closure she got was like, oh, he wasn't evil, and he was just doing this to help, protect me and like everyone. But at the end of the day, his plan, like, he died. One of the sadder deaths in Bleach.
For peak moments, I don't think this is necessarily the highest high of his character, but I picked when he did his battle with Ichigo, because we thought this was going to be the first time we actually get to see Gin go all out and not kind of sandbag like he did against Toshiro. Like Toshiro, he was really just trying to cause chaos. Like, he was trying to kill Hinamori in the background instead of actually fighting Toshiro. So we're thinking, okay, Ichigo, he's done his fair share of training. We'll get that rematch from the start of the Soul Society arc. He's come really far. He has a Hollow Mask, he has Bankai. And if he wants any shot at defeating Aizen, he has to be able to defeat one of Aizen's right-hand men. And what we get is this really strange battle that's not even about the sword clash. It's about the conversation more than anything that Gin is having with Ichigo.
It was a big yap fest.
It was a yap fest, but it was an interesting yap fest because Gin is literally telling him lies about his Bankai, like how fast it goes, how far it can go, whether or not it vaporizes into dust when it extends. He'll literally aim his dagger at Ichigo and then not do anything just to keep him on his toes.
it was actually one of the funnier humor moments in Bleach during that time, because Kane was just totally messing with Ichigo.
And since he's such a hard character to read, it's just really unnerving to watch that fight for the first time, because you're like, well, I want Ichigo to win, but I don't even know what this guy's thinking. So how is Ichigo supposed to prepare for his attacks? That's kind of what Gin gets at, where he said, you were scarier in Soul Society than you are now. You should just go home. I mean, he was not wrong. Until Ichigo got that Dongai training, Aizen would be going up to the Soul Palace.
I believe Gin at some point mentioned that when it comes to Aizen, it's not his Koika Suigetsu that's actually terrifying about him. It's his power in general. Aizen is scary because he's that powerful. It's not his sword. It's not his Ryatsu. It's literally everything. He is insanely powerful. And I think Gin truly believed in his head, no one's going to be able to beat this guy unless I do this one specific plan.
And one of the other things that's great about that fight is Gin has been lying about his Bankai ever since he got it, because Aizen's just like, oh man, I thought you have prepared something cooler than this when you landed the Bankai on him. It's like, yeah, I lied about my Bankai. It actually vaporizes, leaves a fragment in you, and it's pure poison. And his Bankai is called the God Killing Spear, so it was thematically supposed to kill Aizen because he was basically a god with the Hogyoku, but the gods did not look upon him favorably that day. But the fight against Ichigo is more about screening him for his potential to kill Aizen, or whether or not Gin's gonna have to get his hands dirty, which is really interesting with hindsight. I think it elevates the fight once you come back to it.
Now I think about it, I'm gonna throw Gin, and he's very neutral as neutral gets. He's not bad, but he is definitely not good. I cannot put him anywhere further or beyond neutral for me.
I would call him chaotic neutral.
Definitely a chaotic neutral. Yeah, I think that's more fitting for him. Because now I'm thinking about it, he did slice up Hiyori, and then I think he killed. Didn't he kill one of the seat members till he got his spot?
He was out there killing officers to become part of Aizen's plans.
And
He's not a good guy.
I don't want to. Yeah, he's definitely not a good guy. He's definitely not a good guy. He likes Rangiku, we know that, but that's about all we can go with Gin.
Favorite thing about them, I have one word written down. It's a liar. He's just so deceptive that I felt like I first was experiencing Bleach, I had to take almost every scene he was in and think about it, what he literally said, what it could have meant, and what he actually meant. And two of those scenes is when Grimmjow goes on his escapade. It was his first or second time going to the world of living to fight Ichigo, and Tosin was so pissed that he ends up cutting off Grimmjow's arm and vaporizing it, and Gin's just lurking in the corner. He's like, man, Aizen, why'd you let Tosin get worked up like that? That's not very nice. You're just like, okay, why would he say this stuff? It's so weird. He's constantly lurking, and this is one of those scenes that makes you have the impression that he's always trying to keep tabs on Aizen for a window, is he's just hiding in the corner while someone's being disciplined to see if there's a good timing. He also openly criticizes Aizen, but plays it off like he likes that Grimmjow got hurt.
Yeah, he's like playing it. He's like that. I don't know what you want to call this. Like this character, like characterization. It's like that person's like constantly roasting you, but at the same time they're like, "Oh, my bad," but you know I don't mean.
Yeah, he's got fake friend vibes.
He definitely does.
Um, and the other thing, the gang split up into their 5 different corridors after doing their pact. They all go into their rejected Espada fights. Gin is overseeing all of them, and he may or may not be using some sort of technology to arrange the corridors so they all have a fight they can win, because all of them end up winning their fight. Rukia barely won her fight, but the rest of them actually pretty handedly defeat their opponents once they put in their effort. I think it was Rukiora walked into the room. It was just like, why are you overseeing this? He's like, well, I just like happy endings. Why would he ever say this?
And that's probably one of my favorite things too about Geen is that he's really that character of you never know his next move because you really didn't. I think even Aizen himself was like, don't understand him, but I need him. And I think that's what really sold it for Aizen. But that's all I got for Geen.
With hindsight, I think Genran Giku is the second relationship that works in Bleach.
I think it's solid. Like I had no qualms with that one.
So I feel like they didn't get out of situationship territory.
Yeah, no, they were definitely in that. They were definitely floating in that range too well. It's a hot take. I think Geen plays the snake motif, in terms of a literary characterization. I think Geen plays that probably the best. I think Kubo like really nailed it to the point where I can't even name another character in anime that plays that snake vibe better than him.
Yeah, there is kind of a snake trope in anime.
There is a snake trope. It's a common thing, but I think Kubo really nailed it with Geen. From even the way his design is, and also his actions,
And the power system.
which makes me think, if you were to add a what if Geen was able to touch Aizen before he fused with the Hogyoku?
I think Aizen actually does. Because if that's the damage he did with Aizen being fused with the Hogyoku, and I think I was like second transformation, I don't think base Aizen actually lives.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Aizen just straight up dies. But at the same time, I think he knew Aizen's guard was going to be up. He knew Aizen to, like, probably to a T. And he knew, like, you know what? If I try to do what I want to do, Aizen's 100% going to just mop the floor with me and my plan's ruined. And which I wonder if, like, in that scene, if we were to be in the character's mind, Geen was like, this is it. Or was Aizen getting too powerful to the point where, like, all right, I need to go forward with this plan, like, ASAP.
Yeah, because doesn't Aizen destroy the Dongai cleaner thing that everyone thought was physically impossible to destroy?
Yeah.
And then I think it was right after that, Gin probably was thinking, like, yeah, there's like no way for me to ever kill this guy unless I do it like ASAP.
Yeah, Aizen was really power creeping beyond like the scope of the anime. I think even Game was like, okay, I don't even think I'm gonna be able to kill him at this rate. So, which is probably why he snatched the Hogyoku and he probably already had an understanding. And that was probably a curveball in his head alone. Is that how does Hogyoku even work?
Do you think he practiced using his Shikai through his Shiakusho behind him?
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say that's pure skill. I'm gonna say he was just a dog in that moment. He was just like, yeah, I got this.
You sure he wasn't just thinking like, I gotta use... Oh, the other thing that's really great about Gin's design, his Shihakusho hides his hands. It's a common design trend that if you want to make someone untrustworthy, don't show their hands, because that always implies like a sense of uncertainty and unease, because you can conceal weapons in your pockets.
Yeah. They do that in Naruto with the Katsuki. I will go back and watch more early Bleach with Geen because now I'm more curious to like see all those moments with him.
I would definitely recommend it. It's pretty hype.